Falcon 9 stands at 70 meters or 229 feet tall with a diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. Most of that is made up by the Falcon 9 first stage, the bottom two-thirds of the rocket. Today's booster has flown 13 times before, going for number 14 today. Designated tail number is 1069 in the SpaceX fleet. If you want a more up close view of those boosters for our channel members, we actually have a video up on the feeds right now of one of the boosters, B1076, cruising on into port past B1067. Video just a little shy of 2 minutes. Again, available for members only. Views from Port Canaveral from earlier this week. Coming back to the Falcon 9 in a more broad sense, at the base of the first stage are 9 Merlin 1D engines. They burn rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are the black carbon fiber landing legs that are used to land the first stage on the drone ship. This morning, they're using a shortfall of gravitas. Above the first stage is the inner stage. It's a composite structure which consists of an aluminum honeycomb core and surrounded by carbon fiber. The image you see here on the right-hand side of your screen, those deployable hypersonic grid fins, these titanium winglets. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the second stage. First stage main engine cutoff. High pressure helium is used to release those latches. And 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. The second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket, powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine, or an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle, which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space. It produces more than 200,000 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight to place the 23 Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. The MVAC engine burns the same propellant mix, kerosene, and liquid oxygen, same as the first stage. It will ignite a third time after the deployment of the Starlink satellites. There'll be a deorbit burn to drive the upper stage back into the atmosphere, where it will burn up, helping to eliminate the risk of any unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, as we come into just a little before T-minus 9 minutes here on the flight, top of the Falcon 9 are the payload fairings, which contain the 23 Starlink satellites today. Fairings are made up of a carbon composite material. They're 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall and 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. The two halves of the payload fairings will be recovered by the recovery vessel Doug, a little bit further downrange from where the booster lands on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. As we showed you earlier, they gently splash down under parachutes. We're now T-minus 8 minutes, 23 seconds and counting. Just a little over a minute away from the engine chill down sequence beginning. Again, that's the process of sending a small amount of liquid oxygen through the Merlin engine turbo pumps, cools them down, and thermally conditions them ahead of engine start. Now T-minus 6 minutes, 52 seconds and counting. As that engine chill down is underway, I want to extend our appreciation to the now more than 3,800 of you that are joining with us live. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button to allow more folks to find this live coverage. And since we do have some new folks joining us, I'm going to go ahead and go back over trajectory one more time. Before we do, just want to say hello to some folks in the live chat. We appreciate all of you who are here with us. We should be getting views from the pad there at SpaceX Slick 40 in just about a minute or so. So let's go ahead and step through the trajectory before that happens. Of course, the Falcon 9 rocket's going to be lifting off from Pad 40 or Space Launch Complex 40, Slick 40 here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Falcon 9 will follow this green line here. That's the flight path. We'll fly in a southeasterly trajectory with the first stage booster landing a little bit east of the Bahamas on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. And again, the recovery vessel Doug will be used to scoop up the fairing halves following fairing separation. Leave that up for just a few more seconds before we get some
pressing for strong back retract.
Views from SpaceX, which you can hear, and now we can see getting some views from down there at the pad.
Strong back retract has started.
With that call for strong back retract, clamp arms underneath the payload fairings will open up. Transporter erector will recline about 1.5 degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Stay in that position until liftoff. You see that process happening there in the box on the left-hand side of your screen. Nice view of the crew access tower there. Speaking of crew, SpaceX pressing towards its next crew flight. They mentioned earlier this week that they're getting ready to go into vacuum chamber testing on the Crew Dragon spacecraft known as Resilience. That'll be supporting the launch and the mission of the Polaris Dawn flight, led by businessman Jared Isaacman, as well as 3 others. These private astronauts will take part in the first commercial spacewalk ever performed. Now less than 3 minutes to flight here. The Polaris Dawn mission set to launch sometime in the summer of this year. Yet to be determined if it will fly from Launch Complex 39A.
Stage 1 launch float is complete.
Where all other Crew Dragons with astronauts on board have lifted off from, or if it could be the first to launch from this pad now that the capabilities are available. Less than 2.5 minutes into this flight. The next call out we should be hearing will be for the conclusion of stage 2 LOX load. At that point, the Falcon 9 will be fully fueled with 1 million pounds of propellant.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And with that, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully fueled ahead of its planned liftoff in about a minute and a half. Want to welcome in the more than 6,000 of you who are now watching with us live.
Ground gas closeouts.
Be sure to hit that like button, allow some more folks to find their way on in the last little over a minute before liftoff. T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Go for launch.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 rocket is in position to launch the Starlink 6-47 mission. 30 seconds to go.
T-minus 30 seconds.
20 seconds. And here we go in 10, 9,
seconds.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 6-47 mission. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower and is soaring above Florida's Space Coast. Now about 30 seconds into flight. For the call, the propulsion is nominal. Let's listen to the roar of those 9 Merlin 1D engines. Now a little over a minute into flight, the Falcon 9 supersonic traveling faster than the speed of sound. We passing through max Q now, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Coming up in rapid succession, there will be 3 events. About T plus 2 minutes and 26 seconds will be first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO. That'll be followed by stage separation, second stage engine start, or SES1, and then fairing deployment just a little after 3 minutes. That call for MVAC chill down. They're thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine before it ignites in less than a minute. Coming up on MECO here in just a few seconds. Here's the MECO stage separation.
Main engine cutoff.
And there's
Stage
the Merlin vacuum
separation
engine.
confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Some great views from Adam Bernstein, our tracking camera here at the press site. Getting ready to deploy those payload fairings momentarily. And there you see fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there it goes in the delay on the SpaceX feed. A little bit of a jellyfish effect this morning. Falcon 9 second stage cruises on in the pre-dawn hours here. Just about 5:15 a.m. Eastern. 09:15 UTC. A little more than 3.5 minutes into this flight. Still getting some good tracking views from Adam as we cruise on into the fourth minute of this mission. Coming up, our next milestone here will be at about T plus 6 minutes and 9 seconds for that first stage entry burn. It'll effectively be the Falcon 9 first stage, slamming on the brakes, making its way towards the drone ship. Now coming up on 5 minutes into the launch here. And unfortunately, this mission was just a few minutes too early. We could have had a very nice moonrise here as the Falcon 9 was lifting off from pad 40. But it's still a very nice moonrise nevertheless. I wish all the luck in the world to all you eclipse watchers that are going to be chasing down totality in the coming days. Again, the Great American Eclipse, as it's being called, coming up on Monday, April 8th. We're now about 20 seconds away from the start of the entry burn tonight. We will endeavor to capture it with our ground tracking cameras here at the press site. But if not, of course, we will have onboard camera views from SpaceX. And there, Adam's got that entry burn. Well done.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
This burn lasting a little over 20 seconds.
Vehicles are on nominal trajectory.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
And there you see the conclusion of the entry burn in real time. SpaceX coming in on a slight delay, so that's why you're still seeing it on the right-hand side of your screen.
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
There you have the conclusion of that entry burn. Still getting some beautiful shots of the moon. Looking back at pad 40 over at Cape Canaveral. A little more than 7 minutes into flight. We're now less than a minute away from the start of the landing burn, coming up at about T plus 8 minutes and 1 second.
Vehicles are on nominal trajectory.
With that call up, both the first and the second stages continuing on a nominal flight path as intended. Falcon 9 first stage dropping rapidly in speed, less than 2,000 kilometers per hour. Speedometer plummeting
Stage 1
dramatically.
transonic. Stage 1 landing burn.
Now you see the start of the landing burn. The landing legs will be deployed in just a moment here as the views on the drone ship will pop up on the right-hand side. There we go.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good touchdown for this first stage booster, B-1069 in the SpaceX fleet.
MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And with that call for nominal orbit insertion, the Falcon 9 second stage will remain in that parking orbit until about T plus 54 minutes and 10 seconds. At that point, there will be a brief 2-second burn of that Merlin vacuum engine, setting up for Starlink satellite deployment at about T plus 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 19 seconds. Still getting some great views of our crescent moon here. Very beautiful moonrise above pad 40. Slightly bummed that the launch wasn't delayed just a hair to see these two events converge at liftoff, but you know, them's the bridge. And with a good liftoff and landing of booster 1069, I'm going to go ahead and take a peek back at our live chat briefly before we go ahead to our mission stats, close things out tonight. I want to thank Smooth Juice for a £5 super chat. Thank you so much, Smooth Juice. Appreciate you being with us. It says, unbelievable sound, never gets old. Thanks, Spaceflight Now from the UK. Very jealous. We are certainly more than happy to be here with you to bring you the sights and sound of the Falcon flights. As SpaceX notes, this was the 275th landing of a Falcon 9 rocket. And that's a good segue into our mission stats as we have them tracked here. This was the 14th flight of Falcon 9 booster 1069 in the SpaceX fleet. This was SpaceX's 318th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 33rd Falcon 9 flight of 2024, the 262nd Falcon booster reflight with the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This is SpaceX's 34th launch of the year, including Starship Integrated Flight Test number 3. This was the 107th launch in the last 365 days, the 177th orbital launch for SpaceX from Pad 40, and the 232nd overall orbital launch from this pad. With this mission in the books, here's where we stand on the bar chart version of Falcon flights. Just a little bit into month 4, and SpaceX just about a third of a way towards catching its total number of launches from last year. Has a company goal of trying to hit 144, potentially up to 150. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 64th landing of a booster on the drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas. This was SpaceX's 227th drone ship landing to date and the 292nd overall SpaceX booster landing, getting very close to the big 300. Finally, some industry stats. This was the 23rd launch from Florida this year, the 35th orbital launch from U.S. soil. This was the 38th orbital launch from a U.S. rocket company, including the 3 from Rocket Lab. So far this year, they're working on number 4 later this month. And this was the 65th orbital launch from around the world, with 2 orbital launch failures so far on the year. Taking a look at our pie chart, how it shakes out right now. US with about 58% of the pie, 38 missions and counting. China with 15, Russia in third with 5, Japan with 3, and India and Iran with 2 apiece. And as we take one last look at our own moon here, preparing for a lot of folks to head towards the heart of the United States for eclipse viewing. A lot of hotels already booked, so if you're one of those last minute folks, you may have to park, or yeah, you may have to stay in a hotel somewhere outside of totality and then drive your way in, depending on what's still available. But if you do have your heart set on seeing the eclipse this year here in the United States, we wish you all the best. Be sure you have your solar filters for whatever cameras you have. You also want to make sure you have appropriate and certified glasses to safely view both before and after totality. Don't want to see any reports of eye injuries from folks, so be very, very careful when viewing the eclipse. There are some less than reputable folks who will sell not certified